I need the next episode now.
I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe. Now please, get off this planet while you still have a choice.
The Woman Who Fell to Earth, written by Chris Chibnall. The first episode of Series 11 is here. We've seen it. What did we all think? I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I was watching this with my reviewing head on. I was looking for things to pick up on that I could talk about in the negatives column of this. And I generally, I don't want to nitpick on silly, stupid things. Generally, there was nothing significant wrong with this episode at all. It's not necessarily saying it's the best episode ever. It's not necessarily saying that it's even going to be the best of the season or that it's, perfect in every way. But it did what it needed to do. It used the time it had to perfectly pace all of the elements it needed to get through. It started by really concisely and quickly and effectively introducing the new companions. We got to know who they were in very quick ways, but it didn't feel rushed. It introduced the Doctor to us. The plot element had a bit of a mystery to it building up around the guy's sister. We were left on wondering, what's this about? It was intriguing. Then you had all the high-paced action. And finally, there was the more heartbreaking moments towards the end. Nothing felt like it had too much time or was underserved at any point. So the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, what did I think? I thought this was a brilliant introduction for her. I thought they made a really good choice having her enter the story from the companion's point of view and in a very dramatic and explain. Have we ever seen I suppose Matt Smith came crashing in too, but not quite so directly in front of the companions. Literally smashed through a roof right in front of them. And yeah, Jodie is the Doctor here. She has the energy of Tennant, the sort of erratic, sort of scatty nature of Matt Smith, and then she throws in her own sort of goofiness for added zing, and it all kind of meshes into this brilliant character, and that is both funny and heartwarming, and interesting to watch. And yeah, so far I'm liking Jodie's Doctor a lot. It'll be interesting to see if she changes her personality at all from what we see in this episode, because as she mentions in the plot, as she mentions in the story, she hasn't finished. She's still changing during this story. And what about the companions? I thought they were set up wonderfully. Even in that opening bit, you kind of get what their thing is, what the issues they're going to be tackling are over the series, because and that's one of the great things. I think Chibnall is actually quite good at writing characters, as we've seen in Broadchurch. Characters and their issues they're going to be going through. I think this will be a long running thread. You've obviously got Ryan and his dyspraxia. That was addressed in this episode. I'm sure it will come up again. It's those personal challenges, the things that they're trying to overcome. So for Ryan, it's that and the confidence that comes with it. With Yasmin, it's the she feels very wasted in her role as a very junior police officer, and she's always trying to push to do more interesting things. So I think there's a slight sort of confidence element to that's going to be her sort of personal story arc. And then you've got Graham, who's just kind of a grumpy old man who, in some sort of a lovable grumpy old man, not in a kind of really horrible way, just in a kind of like, oh god no, I'd rather just go home and have a cup of tea type way. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of Graham. I think he will actually be really good. I was a little bit doubtful about Bradley Walsh. I hadn't seen much of his serious acting. I'd only really seen the occasional clip of Law and Order and things, but generally I wasn't sure. But after this episode, I'm sold. I'm sold on Graham. I think he's going to be really interesting. So you've got those three, and then I'll talk a bit more about this later on, but then you've got, of course, the thing that's the event. I should have said this at the beginning. Spoilers, okay, in this review. So I'm giving you that now because I've only talked in very general terms so far. But here's your official spoiler warning, okay? Go away now if you haven't seen the episode. So there's something that happens at the end to Grace, Graham's wife. She dies. And she's Ryan's nan. So both Graham and Ryan have a very, very personal connection to her. And I think it was really interesting, really brave of Chris Chibnall to do that in the first episode, to put that character death that's going to mean so much to our main characters going forward in there in that very first episode. Very brave, and I think the right choice, because it's not something we've seen happen before. It gives this extra thing to them in their future travels. It definitely was well worth doing. Okay, we've done the recurring characters. Now, what about the plot? I think it was a perfectly good plot. You need something simple for first episodes. You don't need something that's massively overly complicated. Like I said, there's an element of mystery to it towards the first half. You know, what is this mysterious thing that's appeared in the woods? What is this ball of energy, tangled wires things that's crashed into a train carriage? And what's the connection to this guy's sister? Why does this guy that in the garage wants this pod thing, and what's it got to do with his sister? They're building this mystery on, and I found myself really hooked in by that. I was like, I really wanted to know more throughout the whole thing. There wasn't a point where I thought, I'll just get on with it. I was absolutely hooked in with that storyline. And then, of course, it transitions from that mystery to all that action once the mystery elements get solved and the plot continues, and it becomes a sort of more action-orientated thing, running away and trying to defeat the bad guy that is there for the hunt. And overall, the whole episode was very much darker than I thought they were going to go. It was surprising, and actually I really like it. I think it's got potential to rope a lot of people in that these days the kind of TV landscape has changed a lot, and I think this has acknowledged that while also acknowledging some of the flaws of the story arc heavy aspect that we've had before with Moffat. I love the story arc heavy aspects, but it's kind of the blending of two worlds, if I'm making any sense at all right now. What I'm trying to say is that TV audiences are used to a lot more real emotion, real feeling characters in their dramas these days, and things that will generally go on to affect emotionally the people involved. That's the kind of TV we're kind of used to now. We've been trained over the last 5, maybe 10 years by the premium TV shows we watch to expect that. And I think this is acknowledging that and delivering that and serving us up something that will hook in those people that require that to really be interested, while also keeping it very, I think they're going to still keep it very episodic in order to not alienate people that will get thrown off by really like where you have to have seen every episode elements to it. I can't not talk about the music because we've obviously got new composer Segan Akinula doing his first episode here, and I loved Murray Gold's music and I love big orchestral scores, but this was very different. But you know what, I absolutely loved it. I think it worked perfectly, and it kind of had a very much a kind of a radiophonic workshop vibe to it. There were samples in there, distorted samples used all over the place. It was slightly, had electronic elements to it, and yeah, it felt like something that had come out of the radiophonic workshop, but with added melody to it in places. It was really good, and it worked perfectly with the editing and the filming and the just generally the visuals on the screen. There's one point where a bit of the music is doing all its various weird stuff that it is doing radiophonic-esque, and then there's a bit of it that is timed perfectly with the switching on of a big light. and it just works so well, and that beat emphasizes that moment. If this new style of music keeps working as well with the visuals on the screen as it has done in this episode, I'm going to be very pleased. I would say the only negative maybe for the music, and I'm not it's not really a negative. It's a negative to potentially the marketing and merchandise side of Doctor Who, I suppose, is that it doesn't strike me as soundtrack friendly. Like, the music works beautifully, and I think it was really effective with the visuals, but it's not so much the type of music that I would listen to without the visuals. There was an exception to that towards the end of the episode. There was a bit of music which I thought, because I'd been thinking, oh yeah, I love how this music is working, but I wouldn't put it on a CD or put it on Spotify and just listen to it. But then there was a track near the end which I thought, oh well, maybe I'd listen to this one. But overall, yeah, love the music.
Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe. Now please, get off this planet while you still have a choice.
So my two favourite things about the episode are, one I've already mentioned, which is the fact that they were brave enough to do the Grace death and have it impact something that would majorly impact our characters going forward. And the second thing was the way they ended the episode. We still haven't seen the TARDIS, which I'm really pleased about, and I kind of hope we don't see it next episode either. We don't have to go to the whole end of the season, but I quite like them to maybe almost track it down this episode and then find it next episode, in the third episode. That would be nice. And I just love it. I love the way that she wasn't inviting them to come along. She's accidentally teleported them with her, and there was no intention to bring them along. They didn't want to go along. It's a completely different setup than we've had from any of the companions in the modern era, and I think that's interesting. And I also love the kind of slightly serialized nature of it, in the fact that we're leading directly into the next episode with this, and I kind of hope that continues. Obviously, I want some gaps between episodes because the expanded media needs to fit in somewhere, but I quite like the serialized feel of this. It's got a very much blend of the whole episode. Has a feel, and I think they said this in interviews beforehand, that there would be a feel of the William Hartnell era to it, and there really is. I can really feel that, both with the way the team is made up of the four people of different ages, and so that kind of team dynamic I think is very similar to the First Doctor era. I think the way they're using sound and music from the composer is very similar to the First Doctor era, and I think some of this sort of serialized nature of the storytelling, even if it's not heavily plot serialized, because they've said they're not doing that, they're just the kind of like character development serialization, the kind of threads moving over from one episode to the next episode, which we got a lot with the classic series from William Hartnell's era. Ian would finish the Marco Polo episode, and then and then the next serial he'd start still wearing his Chinese looking garb, that kind of thing. I'd like to see more of that. I've struggled with whether or not I was going to rank these in terms of giving them a number out of 10. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, because it's the first of the series. I'm inevitably hyped up a bit for it, and I don't want to give it a number that I regret later on, either too high or too low. But I'm going to do it with the proviso that I might revise them later in comparison to other episodes. But I don't want to start and not have anywhere to go up, so I would never start with 10 on a first episode. And again, I might later on regret that, because it might end up being the best episode of the season. But I was tempted to give it a 9, but I think I'm going to give it a high 8 instead. It's definitely bordering on a 9, but so I've got a bit more flexibility with future episodes and where to put them in comparison to this. I'm going to give it an 8. It was definitely a strong start, and I like I said at the beginning, I kind of want the next episode now. But hey, we got to wait a whole nother week for it. So, yeah. I will see you next week. Don't forget to check out some more videos of mine. Hold on. Which way round is this going to be? This side? I always forget which side it goes. I'm going to say this side. This side of me, you can see some other videos of mine that I've done recently. Here, I've been doing Who Week this week. Here is one from that. And then here is just a random video of mine that YouTube thinks you might like. Check it out. See if they're right. And I will see you next time. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And I'll see you next week for another review. Goodbye.